Hello my friends, welcome to the second video in this React testing series. During this video we are going to create our React application and install all the testing tools we will need to serve as a base for all the videos in this series. So we will start this video by creating our Next.js application using TypeScript, then we are going to install ts-jest, jest, React testing library. At the end of the video, I will show you two extras. The first one is we will install eslint and all the plugins that are needed for eslint in order to make better tests. So we will install a plugin for Jest and another plugin for React testing library. And you will see that those two plugins help us quite a lot improving our tests and our knowledge about testing. So I think you will enjoy that one. Then I will also create a GitHub action. So every time we commit our code into GitHub, it will run the code in Windows, Linux, and macOS, because I know some of you will not be running Windows like I am, and I want the tests to run in your own environment and be sure that it will run correctly for you. So without any further ado, I can hear some of you asking one question, which is, Bruno, why don't we just use the normal create React app or even create Next app with the default configuration that exists in the Next.js repository? So as you can see now on my screen, on the left, we have a Create React App Applications, and on the right, we have a Create Next App Application. If I run tests in both of them, you will see that these tests will both pass and they will both be successful. But sadly, as you can see, these tests over here, they should be failing. And you might be asking, why should they be failing, Bruno? Well, I have a const a, which is of type string, but I'm saying that it will be equals to a number. Both of these configurations, because they are using jest with bubble, they will just pass the test, and I lose probably one of the main benefits of using TypeScript, which is the type checking from the compiler to us. And at the end of this video, I will do this exact example again, and you will see that with our configuration, this example will fail compilation. So without any further ado, let's jump into the video. The first thing we are going to do will be to create our React application. And for that, we will use create next app, and I will give a very long name. So I will call it React testing, I will call it video 2, and then we will say config jest react testing library -- TypeScript, which is -- ts. So if you now go to my GitHub repositories, you will see a bunch of videos starting with YouTube, React testing video, the number of the video, and a small description. But don't worry, every single video in this series, I will leave in the description the GitHub URL. Now, while this one is installing, we can go to our ts-jest and go to their documentation. In their documentation, they have two steps we need to do in order to configure ts-jest. The first one is to do an npm install of these libraries. Even though we already have TypeScript installed, that's not a big deal. We can just go inside our project and now do npm install of those libraries. While those ones are installing, we can go down over here and now copy this command, which is very similar to what eslint has when you do npx eslint -- init. This is similar, but for ts-jest and jest. Now we can come over here, do a copy paste, and now we have a jest.config.js file created. We can now open Visual Studio Code or any editor that you prefer, and probably we will not leave VS Code for quite a while, other than going to our browser, VS Code, and our browser again. Now, the first thing we can do is to create a new folder, and I will call this folder source, where I usually like to have all the source files for my project. As you can see, Next.js creates a folder called pages outside of a source folder, so usually the first thing I do is always move that pages folder inside source, but that's not needed if you don't want to, okay? Now, inside source, I will create a new folder with components. And inside components, I will start by just a normal function for now, which I will call sum.ts. And for now, we will just do sum a, which will be a number, b will be a number, just to make sure that our configuration for jest and ts-jest is working. Now, I will create another file called sum.spec.ts ts. And you can call it sum.test.ts if you prefer. And the same will apply to this it that we have over here. This it is where we are defining our test and running our test. If you want, you can call this one test as well. Both are exactly the same internally for jest, okay? So what I will create over here is just a small test to make sure that sum of 5 plus 2, it will be 7. Summing 5 and 2 will return 7, for example, right? We can work a bit better in our description, but for now, this is very good. So let me just do 5 and 2 to be 7. And if you don't understand this code for now, just don't worry, because we will touch every single of what is this it, what is this expect in the next video. I'm just creating this code right now to make sure that our configuration is working more than anything at this stage, okay? So in order to run our test now, I need to come into our package.json, and I will do the following: test, and I will say jest. Now I can do npm t, and that will be exactly the same as doing npm run test, because I'm lazy. I always do npm t, all right? And that npm t should just run our test and should return a successful test. So 5 plus 2 is 7, as we were expecting. Now, we are in a very good position to also test what we did a few seconds ago. So I will do a string equals to 5 and expect a to be 5, right? And this test right now should fail because TypeScript will not compile. So if our configuration is good between jest and ts-jest, our test fails, and the message is quite good. Type number is not assignable to the type string. So at this moment, we know that we have ts-jest and we have jest working. We can now start to install React testing library. And we can go to the documentation if you want to, and go to React testing library, and we will install already a few packages. If you open the documentation, they only talk about this one, but I will already install the user events, which will allow us to click in buttons in a much nicer way, to type into the keyboard in a much nicer way, and that one depends on testing library /DOM, so we will also install that one, and later in the video, in probably 2-3 minutes, we will need something else called JSDOM, so I will install all of them right now so we don't do a lot of npm installs during the video, okay? So save dev, testing library /React, I can copy this because the beginning is always the same, it only changes the end, user event /DOM, and /jest DOM. Okay, so these four are going to install, and then we can start to do a test where I'm going to create a component. Okay, so I will do a component called hello.tsx, and I will do export function hello, return a div with hello world. It's a very good component. I know I don't need to import React from React anymore, but I can't even see components without that yet. Probably in the future I can, but my brain can't make sense of that yet. Now I will do hello.spec.tsx. And now at this stage, I will just say renders hello world. Okay, hello world. And once again, if you don't understand the next few lines of code, is completely fine because we will touch those in the next video. Okay, testing library /React. So we can just do this, it. Okay, so we now can render our component using React testing library. This is nothing more, nothing less than just a wrapper around what React DOM does. Now we can just do render. I will do the name of the component, which is hello. And the first thing we want to make sure is that this test runs as is without anything else. So let me just import hello, and now you will see that this test will actually fail. And the reason this test will fail is if we come to the tsconfig.json, you see that Next.js by default has this JSX as preserve. So the error that you are going to see is actually a very annoying error. It will tell you that there is a syntax error and there is an unexpected token, which is that token over there. And that's very, very annoying, and the first time it happened to me, I took quite a few hours to solve. So the easiest solution, and probably the best solution, is to come over here, create another file called tsconfig.jest.json. Some people will call it .test.json, but usually in my applications I have both Jest and Cypress, and I have different ts configs for both, so I prefer to call this one Jest and the other one Cypress.json. But if you just have Jest and you want to call it .test.json, absolutely fine. Okay, so inside this file, very luckily nowadays TypeScript supports extending another ts config. This already has quite a few years, but it's a very nice thing. So we can do extends, and in the extends I will just do tsconfig.json, which is we are extending everything that exists in that file, and the only thing we are going to override will be the compiler options. In that JSX, instead of being preserve, we will use React. You have all of those options over here, but the one we want will be React. And now, if you run the test, it will still fail because you need to tell ts-jest and jest that you now have this new tsconfig.json. We created it, but we are not using it anywhere. So as you can see, it's failing the test because we have that compilation error, but the other one is still failing with the token. So let's just go to ts-jest documentation once again. And now in the ts-jest documentation, you will see that they have in the options, over here, options, they have something called ts-config. If you click on this ts-config, it will now show you how you can overwrite the ts-config. So I will copy that one, and pay attention because over here they have .test.json and we called ours .jest.json. So let's come over here into our jestconfig.json, and I will do globals ts-jest, and in our case it will be tsconfig.jest.json. You don't need to have this dot slash. I'm just too used to have that, so I put, but if you have it like this, it's exactly the same and it will work. Okay, now if I run the tests, they will fail once again. Just to save you time, I will tell you already why it will fail. Because we have this test environment as Node, and our React applications need some things that only exist in browsers. Luckily, we already have an emulation for the browser called GSDOM, so it has all the APIs that your browser will also have. Now, if I save that one and I fix my some unit test over here, let me just remove that thing that is not working. I can even come to my spec, and now I will do something that we will talk much deeper in the next video, which is to const my element equals to screen.getByText, and we can get our hello world. Hello world. And now if I do that in my element, I will have this div over here. Okay, and then I will be able to do stuff like expect my element to be in the document, but this specific line will not run yet. I will run this test for you and you will see that it will fail. And the main reason is because we need to import that other thing that we installed a few seconds ago called JSDOM from testing library. Okay, so if you come a bit to the top, it will tell you that first it was not able to find hello world, which probably we typed it wrong. So it is hello world with an exclamation mark. If you don't want to put the exclamation mark, you can just pass a regular expression, but that's the topic for the next video. I will repeat it again in the next video, so don't worry. And now our test, the beginning part will pass, but it will not find this to be in the document. So I go up and it will say that to be in the document is not known. I don't even know what that is. So we can come over here again to our browser. Let me come over here, and we have something called setup files after env. And this is something that Jest has that will run whatever file that you have or whatever code you have before it runs any test. Okay, and it only runs once. So we can come over here and search for the setup file after env, and we can just copy this little bit. Okay, and in my case I will call it the same name that was already in the jest documentation, so jest.setup.js. The only difference is that I will put it inside my source folder, okay? And I will call this jest.setup.js, and I will change JS for ts to be TypeScript. Now I will come inside my source, and I will do js.setup.ts, and I will do the following: import testing library /just-dom. And now at this stage, if I run my test again, my two tests will run successfully. So we have the configuration for Jest and React testing library. Now, as I said to you in the beginning of this video, for me is as important to do the configuration for eslint. So I will just do a commit. As you can see, I already committed to GitHub, and you can see that specific commit over here. Now we are ready to start to create our new eslint configuration. So I will just rename this one to be ASD for now, because then I will want to copy this next and next core web vitals from there. So I will just do the following: npx eslint -- init. And now eslint will start to ask us a few questions. And I want this middle one because in order to enforce styles, we are going to use prettier. So I don't care about styling for now. I will use import and export. So this is the one. We are going to use React. Does your project use TypeScript? We need to select yes. Now we will run it on the browser. We want the file to be in JavaScript. Would you like to install all the dependencies now? Yes, I want to install all the dependencies right now. And this is a very fast process, as you can see. And now the only thing I want to do is to copy these extents from here into our eslint config over there. And I will just do this bit over here. Now that I have that over here, I can just format this code. I can reduce a bit the size of my window. And there are a few things here that we don't even need. One of those is this env. So I can remove the env. I will need in a few seconds to also add another few plugins. The first one that I'm going to do is this TypeScript eslint recommended. And I will just do plugin eslint recommended, and I think it's called type checking. Let me just check, requiring type checking. Okay, and basically this is just to enforce even more our type checking in terms of our TypeScript eslint plugin. Okay, now because we installed this line, we can already start to see if our application, when we run lint, if it will work. In case your Next.js application, for whatever reason, doesn't have this linting line, please add it for your application so you can run that. And now we need to go to the parser options and pass a project. And the project is just the ts config. So let me come over here to the parser options, and I will just do project, and the project will be our /ts-config.json. And once again, if you don't want to pass this /, I don't think you need to. Okay, so let's run it again. We will probably have one or two more errors. And when we are okay with the running of this one, we can go and install all the things we want, like the Jest plugin and the React testing library plugin. So for now, let me just go and see what's happening over here. And this rule, actually, we don't like this rule because this is enforcing us to return the type on every single function. And this is very annoying, especially because TypeScript already knows that. So this rule I will put off, and as you will see during the series, if I have a rule that I don't like for whatever reason and is just a useless rule, I will just disable that. You can do that as well with your team. So if your team doesn't like a specific rule, feel very welcome to go ahead and just remove that rule from your linting tools. Even though I will probably use that rule, you are very welcome to go and just remove it. Now that we have that bit running and we see that we have no eslinting warnings or errors, so to just double check that, I need to go to the Next.js application and add a specific dir, because the default applications that Next.js is looking to, so let me just show you, next lint is only looking to a few folders. And if I'm not mistaken, the folders they are looking for will be the pages, the components, and the lib. In my case, I want to look at the source. So I will need to pass this dir --src, or if you prefer, you can create a next.config.js and put in your dirs your source folder. In my case, I prefer this one just because it's faster for the video, and usually I don't like to put these things inside my next.config.js, but if you like, very welcome to do it. And I will just do the following, --dir src. So now I can do npm run lint once again, and now when I run lint this time, it should just go ahead and fail probably in one thing or another. No failure, so we are good to go at this stage. Let me just add an error that I know it's an error just to see if it complains about it. So equals to 5, and oops, not a, c, and now let me just see c plus a, and now lint should complain that c should be a const and not just a let, okay? If it complains, we are good to go. And yes, it complained, so linting is looking into our files. We are very good to go. Now, the next step is to go to Google once again and type the following, eslint-staged. And there is a plugin called eslint plugin jest, and for some reason, I'm now using Bing. Good job, Microsoft. Okay, so we have this eslint plugin, and if you scroll in this eslint plugin, we have a few options. One of the options is the recommended one. Then we have another one for the style, and as you can see here, it helps us to use the proper matchers, okay? So instead of using the to-be and pass a null inside, they are telling us to use this matcher, .to-be null, okay? So we want to use both the recommended and the style. As you can see, there is also an option called all, but they say that this option is not stable enough for you to use in a production application. If this changes in the future, when you are watching this video and they no longer say that about the all version, by all means use the all instead of having to copy these two plugins with recommended and the style, okay? So let me just go here and I will just go back to our thing and I will just do the following. I will do the recommended and I will do the style. Okay, and as you will see, I will make it fail just for us to see it failing. Oops, my editor is not that happy. So I will just make those two fail. And now how to make that fail? Well, one very easy option is to come over here and just say, instead of it, I will make a fit. And the fit just means focus, okay? So if we add more tests, at the moment we only have this test, but if we add 2 or 3 tests, a fit will just focus on this test. And usually it's very bad for us to commit code like that because we might be ignoring other tests. So if I come over here and I do npm run lint, I now should have that error. And the error should be complaining, oh, I never installed it. My bad, we need to install it. So let me just copy the name of the plugin because we need to install the plugin. And let's do npm install --save dev and the name of the plugin. And then yes, we will be able to run this npm run lint again. And now, yes, we should have that failure saying that we shouldn't focus tests, okay? Actually, the error that they will give, it will be to, instead of using the fit, to use it.only, which is something that they prefer, but even if you do it.only, it will then say that you shouldn't have focus tests. So let's just double check that. And you can start to see how these linting plugins for testing start to help you out here and there, small details, but in the end of the day, in the end of the month, usually the time they save us is quite a lot. So that's the main reason I'm taking the time to show you that. Now, the one that will give you even more benefits will be React testing library eslint, okay? And this one, we can go directly to their GitHub page. And now in their GitHub page, they already explain how we can do that. And they have one called the React one, which is this plugin testing library React. And this one already has some rules from Jest DOM. and sorry, not just DOM, testing library / DOM. Okay, so we have all the things that we need in this one. I will need to install it again before running. Okay, so let me just come over here and just copy the name of the plugin itself. So eslint plugin. I will do npm install -- save dev of that plugin. We can then do an npm run lint, and while it will run, I will just go to one of my tests and I will do something that this plugin doesn't want. So I will do screen.debug. I will now run again and I will have this warning. Basically, this is as similar as a console log, but in this case, it will print all the DOM that we have on the screen. Okay, so as you can see, an expected debug statement. It does a lot more things for us. Okay, now the next step that we are going to do will be to go to our eslint and create something called lint-staged. And after we have that lint-staged, we can go to our GitHub Actions and just make that work into every single commit we do. As you can see, our linting configuration is also committed. So we can now go to the lint staging, and in the lint stage, you can go down a little bit and we will have a way to run our lint staged. A bit like we did npx eslint -- init, we will do npx mrm2 at lint staged. Okay, and that will install the initial git hooks. So every time that we will commit now, you will see that it will do prettier for us and it will do the linting fixes for us. So what I will do right now is to do an npm install of prettier and lint staged. Okay, install lint staged and prettier. And the reason, I will do it as -- save dev. And the reason I'm doing that is because over here, they are doing npx lint staged, and I want to do npm run lint staged. I will go to my package.json and just make it available. Okay, so I will just make this available right now. And if we go down into our lint staged, we have already eslint running over here. And in reality, I want eslint to run into our tsx files and into our tx files. Okay, and then I will want prettier to run in every single file that exists. So we will do prettier -- write -- ignore unknown. Okay, so that way prettier, all the types that prettier doesn't know, prettier will not try to format that code. Okay, so I can even come over here. I will just make this very badly formatted, right? I will do it very, very bad. And now we can do git add dot and git commit -m add lint staged and prettier. And now you will see that a lint staged command will run. It will run eslint, and as you can see, prettier already made my files much nicer. So I can do also a git push right now. And the last thing that we need to do is to go to our GitHub. And now in GitHub, if I refresh, I will have that one committed. We can come to the GitHub Actions and create a new workflow for us. So we will click over here to More Continuous Integration Workflows. And now we will just search for Node.js. And when we find the Node.js that we want, which is this one, I will click on Set up this workflow. You can call it anything you want .yaml. You can even call it bruno.yaml. It really doesn't matter. And now the only things I will change over here will be the branches. I will say any single pull request that exists will run that. Now, instead of running it on Ubuntu latest, I will just say that it will run on matrix.os, and now I will define that matrix. So I will just say OS, it will be Ubuntu latest, it will be Windows latest, which is the one I'm using in my own computer, and it will be MacOS latest because I know some of you will be running Mac. Now, the commands that we are going to run, it will be npm run lint and npm test. For now, it looks very, very nice. I can just do another thing that we don't have yet, which is to run test CI, and I will go to our code and add this one, okay? So I will start the commit. I will just say add GitHub Actions that will fail, because we know it will fail, right? Now I can come to the GitHub Actions and you will see that it will fail. But while that one is working over here, we can come to jest and type the following: coverage, code coverage threshold, because they have something to fail our build in case the code coverage threshold is not the threshold that we want. So let's say that in your company, you want the code coverage threshold to be 100% everywhere. Well, you can do that in the following way. You come over here to the jestconfig.js and we will just add the following. Instead of having 80, we will put 100 everywhere, right? And now I just need to create that command that we did. I will just do first a git pull to grab our GitHub Actions from there. And now the only thing I will do is come to our package.json and I will add a new test command called test-ci, which will be jest --coverage --silent, and that is just good enough for what we want. We can even pass some --ci over there. Now I can do git commit -m. I will do add coverage threshold. I will do a git push, and now when this one reaches GitHub, it will run our commands that we are looking for. As you can see, it already failed the jobs, and the reason will be because we don't have that npm run test ci, which is of course what we were expecting. And now this one will run, and it will run in Ubuntu, Windows, macOS, and versions 12, 14, and 16 of Node. So I think I will cover all of you over there, and that's what I want. I want every single video to run in all these versions to avoid you having problems when you are following me, okay? But this is also important in your companies. So now, if you are ready to go to video number 3, you can click over here. If you want to see all the videos in the playlist, you can click over there. And I really hope you enjoyed this one, you like it, and let's see you in the next one. Bye-bye!